Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. In this week we've got all sorts of bits and bobs going on. I'm talking about Mother Nature and all about the chemistry of the soil, etc. I'm going to show you a bit more about what's been going on with the weather vane. We've got some questions and all sorts of bits and bobs, but more importantly we're going to be talking about bananas! So it's been quite a nice day today, but as you can see from the ground, I don't know if you can see that, but we've still got frost sitting on the ground. So we've got to the point now where you know, the ground's not really, you know, sort of thawing out quite as much as it was. But the one concern that I have got, and this is where the reason why I brought you down here, is the water table's quite high in the allotment, and you know, as you can see there, that piece of ice, I can see that the water table has dropped slightly, but the water table's sort of sitting really high. So I just wanted to quickly show you. I have already had a look in here, but this is the drain. This is the, if you can remember, there's a pipe running from over there around and down to here. Then also on this side we've got a pipe running from around here along and down, running down into this interceptor, I think it's called, if you look at the French drains on the internet. But if you look in here, as you can see, the water level is only probably about 6 inches below the level of the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty this barrel, and this is a sort of 4.5 foot barrel, so that goes down about sort of 5 foot into the ground, and I'll be draining that out. And basically what I do is I put a pond pump in there, and then I'll be running a hose pipe either down the drive, or what I do is take it up and into the top there and drain it away from the allotment. And then what I'll find is over the next 24 hours all of the sort of residual water that's in the ground on both of these plots will then start to drain back into the water butt. So what I'll find is if I come up here tomorrow, it will again be full. So what I'll do is I'll drain it today, get all the water out as best I can, and then I'll come up again tomorrow and do exactly the same thing, because I can almost guarantee that will be full. Now the reason I'm doing this obviously is as the ground's freezing. At the moment, if you imagine, the ground stays reasonably warm, so with the weather that we've been having, the top sort of 4 or 5 inches of the ground will freeze. Everything under that is still sort of unfrozen, it'll still be liquid. In the next couple of weeks, if we do get this deep freeze that they've been promising us, you know, it will freeze a lot lower, and the water will be, you know, sort of held in the ground, and it won't drain properly. So what I want to try and do is get it drained now whilst the water will still drain off, so that I've got the least amount of water in the ground. Because if we do have a downpour, obviously it's going to start to flood, because the ground is now saturated with water. So I'll get on and drain that. But I just wanted to just quickly show you the best way of taking out the leaks. Now, we had a few leaks last week, but I'm just about to dig a few more out, because we're going to have some stew made with the kohlrabi and the leeks, with potatoes and swede and parsnips and everything else. But I'm just going to dig a few of these out, so I just thought I'd quickly show you that. And we have got another contender for the weirdest vegetable this year. We've got a kohlrabi with its own little bottom. So what I've found is the easiest way to dig out leeks is I always do it with a spade, in exactly the same way as you do the parsnips. Come about 6 inches away from the leek, and leeks are quite shallow rooted, they're not anywhere near as deep as a parsnip, as you can imagine. Just loosen the ground up around it, and then grab hold of the leek at the bottom and just pull it, and as you pull it, just shake it. Get off as much of the dirt as you possibly can. Now the one tip I can give you is what you don't want is any of the dirt to go down into the collar there, because what you'll find is when you cut the leek apart, even though this is quite a small one, the dirt will go down inside there, and then it'll be difficult to clean after you've done it. So with leeks, what you need to do is always make sure, if you are weeding around them or whatever, you don't let the dirt get up here, because what it will do, or into the leaves here, because it'll wash down next time it rains. It'll wash it, like if there's a bit of dirt, if there's a bit of dirt in there, you get a bit of dirt in there, what will happen is when you next get some rain, what it'll do, it'll wash that dirt down inside the leek. So if you're ever weeding around leeks, always make sure you don't get any dirt actually within the leaves here, because that will wash down inside the leek, and then it'll obviously discolour the leaves of the leek. So as I say, it's quite easy. Push the spade down just the side of the leek like that. Grab it by the ground, and as you lever the spade backwards, just pull it out. Give it a bit of a shake, get off any excess dirt, etc. And there's your leek ready to take into the kitchen to prepare. So I'll just do another couple, because these are reasonably small, to be honest with you, this year. They're normally a lot fatter than this, but I don't know why, but this year they've not quite grown like they normally do. So there's number 3. Just do one last one. It's a nice big one here. Now, if you haven't already taken your leeks out and used them, they will, as soon as the weather starts to warm up in the spring, so come sort of the end of January, start of February, they will start to run to seed. So if you have got any leeks left in your allotment, now's the time to use them up. Leeks don't tend to keep in the kitchen particularly well, so obviously only dig them up as you use them, but you need to start thinking about using any leeks up that you've got, so so they don't go to waste.
Oh, Jim's allotment garden, Jim's allotment garden.
The kohlrabi have also done quite well this year, and they're now ideal to pick. So basically all I do is grab the kohlrabi, pull the whole thing out. Now the one thing you need to remember with a kohlrabi is they are brassicas, so they are prone to club root. Now, even though this hasn't got club root, don't be tempted to compost the roots. So what I'll do is I'll cut that off there, so I can use obviously the kohlrabi in the kitchen. But this root part here, I'll cut it off there, and all of this, rather than being composted, that'll go straight into the bin. Just one other quick note with kohlrabi, they are quite strong in their taste. Now I'm going to be making a large pot of stew, so I'm going to put a couple of these in. But if you're if you make any less than that, I wouldn't put too many of these in, because they have got quite a strong sort of cabbagey taste. Now, if you put sort of couple, and if you're making about a gallon of stew, then sort of 1 or 2 of these is just about right. If you are making less than that, if you're just making a couple of pints or 3 pints of stew, say half a gallon, with 4 pints, then I would say 1 of these is more than enough. But otherwise, the taste of the kohlrabi is going to overpower everything else that's in the stew. Okay, this part of the video I'm going to be discussing over the next sort of few months, well, probably all year, to be honest with you, because there's a whole raft of this. But this is understanding the chemistry of gardening, and what I want to do is explain to you how I think about most certainly soil preparation and looking after plants and dealing with pests and diseases and stuff like that, to enable you to understand that you don't have to use a lot of chemicals. In fact, I use very little chemicals on my garden. I try to grow as much as I can organically. Now, at some point you may well need to draw the line. If you've got a particular problem, there may not be a readily available organic way of getting around it. But these videos I've called Don't Fight with Mother Nature, because really you don't really need to use a lot of chemicals in your garden. And the other thing is as well is when you use chemicals, it can get quite expensive. There are certain times, obviously last year I used a Bordeaux mixture on the tomatoes because there's not a readily available way of fighting fungus type problems such as blight, etc. But what I want to explain to you today is the soil and what makes up the soil. Now obviously the ground is mainly sand, but in there are all of the sort of nutritions that your plants need. Now, when you think about it, plants aren't that dissimilar to us in many ways. In fact, if you look at the makeup of plants, and if you look at sort of Darwin's theory of evolution, all the rest of it, and most certainly if you look at DNA, the DNA of a dandelion is something like 89% the same as a human being. So you know, when you think about it that way, you know, you think, well, they are pretty much the same as us. So they obviously, their needs, the things that they need to live, survive, thrive, etc., are very similar to us. Now, in the ground, obviously, the ground is mainly made up of sand, and in there you need to have a whole raft of other things for the plants to sort of absorb through their roots, which is basically their food. Now, because we're carbon-based life forms, obviously carbon is going to be one of those things in the ground, and you need that in abundance because that's basically the building blocks of most plants. So obviously you need to get a lot of carbon in there. Carbon comes from a whole raft of things. Obviously rotting vegetable matter has got a lot of carbon in it. Things like straw has got a hell of a lot of carbon in it. So that's why it's always good to put carbon in the ground, like straw, stuff like that, paper, cardboard, anything like that that you can put in the ground is ideal. And not only that, it also holds the water in the ground, the straw and the paper and the straw. So anything like that that you can put in the ground, rather than throwing it in the bin, dig it in, shred it up as much as you can, get the straw as small as you possibly can, you know, sort of break it up. Chickens are really good for doing this. If I put fresh straw in the chickens, because they're scratching about in it and walking on it and all the rest of it, they'll break the straw down into small pieces, which is ideal for you know, for digging in the ground. And in later episodes I'll explain why it's a really good thing to have chickens and an allotment, because the two really go hand in hand, because the chickens produce not only the eggs, etc., but they also produce a very rich form of manure and also straw, etc. But I'll come on to that in later episodes. There's quite a lot to this, so what I want to do is try and break it down into sort of manageable pieces. So starting from basics, in the ground we've got four main things that we need to make sure we've got plenty of in the ground, and that's nitrogen, phosphate, potassium and sulfur. Now those, they aren't the only things, they're the main things in the ground. So nitrogen is used by plants to form the leaves. Now nitrogen will come from an organic point of view. Grass cuttings, coffee is a very good source of nitrogen as well. So you know that I get these bags of coffee from Costco, etc. I've explained before. That's a very high sort of rich form of nitrogen that you can put on the ground. So nitrogen is something that you always want in there. The thing you need to think about is if you've got a crop like we've got here, this rocket, I'm going to be eating the leaves, so I want to encourage that plant to grow the leaves. If you've got a plant where you don't want many leaves, like potatoes for example, you want the roots to grow, then you don't want to put too much nitrogen on the potato plants, because they'll grow loads of leaves and then underneath the leaves there'll be nothing or very little. So you need to sort of balance what you put in the ground dependent on what you're growing. So that's nitrogen. Phosphates are basically used for the root formation. So potassium you want to put on things like carrots, potatoes, parsnips, etc. Things that you actually want the root. So that's potassium. I'll come on to where you can get that from in a moment. Sorry, that's phosphate. Potassium, and there's quite a few things that are quite rich in potassium. Now potassium's used for fruit, and flowers and things like that. So if you're growing flowers, or if you're growing strawberries or raspberries, apples, and all the rest of it, actual fruit from the plant, that is, you need to have a sort of fertilizer which is high in potassium. And then sulfur, again, sulfur is related to the leaves of a plant, and you need to be careful with sulfur, because sulfur can cause the soil to become acidic. But sulfur is good for a number of things, like for example, a very rich source of sulfur is coal dust. Now, unfortunately, not many people burn coal anymore, but if you can get coal dust from anybody who's got a coal fire, if you have the ashes from the coal, that's very good. And it's not only good for obviously the plants, but sulfur is also a very good deterrent for slugs and snails, because when they go onto the sulfur, the sort of slime or whatever that they have on their sort of underneath reacts with the sulfur and forms sulfuric acid, which will then burn the slug and that. So if you've got potatoes, if you can get hold of coal ash and put it with your potatoes, so basically when you're planting your potatoes, you put some coal ash in there with it. If any slugs try to get into the potato, that will react with the slug and basically kill it. So that's another useful thing. But all of these things I'll come on to in later series. Today, particularly, sort of what I want to talk about is things that are rich in minerals. So I'm going to use a couple of examples every week or so I can explain to you where you can use these things, where you can recycle them rather than putting them in the bin, and how you can compost them or sort of whatever. So the other thing that you need to think about is obviously from a plant, exactly like humans and everything else, proteins and amino acids are also important, or the building blocks to make these. So proteins are basically what we're made up of from. Obviously we're a carbon-based life form, just like plants are, but we also need the bits that sort of stick it all together, and that's the protein. So the first thing I want to talk about is banana peel. Now, we're all guilty of throwing bananas away, and it's a real pity, because bananas are incredibly rich in minerals. Now, in a banana skin, you've most certainly got potassium in large amounts, and potassium is the fruit flower sort of compound that you want, and it's typically in an oxide form, so it's normally K2O, which is potassium with oxygen combined, and that's how the plants can absorb it. And this is good for stimulating early growth. So when you put in seeds and etc. like that, if you've got a good amount of potassium or potash in the ground, then this will stimulate early growth and vigour within the plants. So if you've got plants which are kind of struggling, it's typically because they haven't got enough potassium. So you need to be putting some potassium rich substance with them, like bananas, etc. Potassium also increases the production of the proteins within a plant, which is why it gives it the vigour. So it will allow the plant to generate the proteins that it needs to grow. So potassium is sort of very good for that. It also improves the efficiency of the plant being able to absorb water from the ground. So obviously, because it's creating the proteins within the plant, these are the parts that are in the roots, etc., which are absorbing the water, which enables the plant to grow even more. So it's really good for that. And protein also, because of the potassium sort of creating the proteins within the plant, it also makes the plant considerably more resistant to diseases. Now, this is the first part of, if you've got a healthy plant, it will be resistant to disease, or it'll have a high resistance. It's just like humans. If you eat properly and have vitamins, etc., your immunity system will be strong, and so if there's a cold or if there's a flu or anything like that, you'll be sort of quite sort of immune to that. It's exactly the same as a plant. If plants have got plenty of potassium within the ground that they've absorbed, they will be largely sort of immune to diseases. And so if you've got healthy plants, you can find if you've got an allotment, the person next to you who perhaps hasn't given their plants as much potassium, their plants may come down with a disease where yours will not, because they're stronger plants. Because they're stronger, they'll grow quicker, bigger, better, and all the rest of it. So banana skins are very high in potassium, so obviously there's a very good reason there alone to use banana skins in your compost. The next thing that bananas are very rich in is phosphates, and obviously, as I explained, phosphates are used for the root formation of a plant, and that's P2O5, which again is an oxide, phosphorus oxide, which again is very rich within the leaves of the peel of the banana. The other things that are in a banana, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in other episodes, it's also rich in sodium, it's also rich in calcium, and obviously we need calcium just like plants do, and it's also rich in magnesium. Now these three things aren't on the original list of things that I explained, but these are also important for a plant to grow healthily. So they're the three important minerals for a plant to grow. So how can you use banana skins? Well, quite easily, you can just dig them straight into the ground. So these bananas I've just shown you here are going to go into the bean trench, and they'll just rot down in the ground, release their minerals into the ground, and obviously the bean plants will absorb them as they grow. The other thing you can do with banana skins is you can make like a wormery, so you can put them into the wormery. So if you've got even if you've just got a bottle or a box or something like that, put your banana skins amongst with other things like comfrey is another good thing for plant fertilizer, and any other sort of organic material in there. Pour some water in and then just leave it, and then that'll start to rot down. You can put worms in there as well, and the worms will start to eat away at the waste in there and breaking it down, and then you use that as a liquid fertilizer. So you water that down, water it onto the plant, and you can do it that way. Or you can just chop the banana skins up into smaller pieces and then just sort of put them in the ground, and they'll sort of rot away. And obviously the higher up in the ground that you put them, the easier the plant is going to be able to access the minerals which are being released from the banana skin. Obviously with beans, they're quite deep rooted, so obviously my trench is kind of about a foot or so deep, whereas if you've got other plants such as strawberries, they're quite shallow rooted. You want to try and get this closer to the surface of the ground so that the roots can access it, so you need to think of that as well. So that's basically bananas for you. They're very very rich in all sorts of minerals, and so bananas are most certainly something that you should be putting on your compost heap or making liquid fertilizer with them, or etc. There's one other use for banana skins which is quite well, there's actually two, which is quite controversial. Aphids don't like banana skins. Now there are people out there that say there's no proof of this. However, I have used bananas to get rid of or to sort of get aphids off plants, and I've found that it works. Now if you chop a banana up quite banana skin into small pieces, crops like beans, any of the brassicas or sort of beans, etc. If you plant the banana skin just below the ground surface, so literally an inch or so below the ground surface, as they decay, they give off all sorts of gases, as you can imagine, as they start to decay. These gases will basically stay around the plant as such if it's not too windy, and aphids don't like it. Now I've done that in some areas and not in others, and I've found that there's less aphids where I've done it than there are where I haven't done it. So banana skins can be used for that as well. The last juice for banana skin, as you've seen me in previous videos using them, they always tell you not to put a banana with other fruit. Well, a banana isn't a fruit, it's actually a herb. But they always say, don't put bananas with fruit in a bowl. So if you see a fruit bowl with banana and apples and stuff like that, the banana will send the other fruit that's in there, the oranges, the apples, etc., ripe or make them start to go rotten. This is the same gas which is being given off from the banana whilst it's in the fruit bowl. That's a disadvantage, obviously, because you need to put your bananas separately from your from your fruit. As a gardener or as an allotmenter, you need to be thinking how you can use that property of bananas to your advantage, and this is where you work with Mother Nature. And you've seen me last year. If you put banana skins in your greenhouse, so when you've got your tomatoes all sort of growing, and you want the tomatoes to start to ripen, start to get banana skins, chop them up into small pieces, or just leave them whole. To be honest with you, what I normally do, and then lay them on the ground round the bottom of the tomato plants. As they start to decay, they will give off this gas, and the gas will basically make the tomatoes start to ripen. Now you can use this on a whole raft of fruits and stuff like that. You can make strawberries start to ripen by using banana skin. Obviously any fruits like tomatoes and stuff like that you can also make start to ripen, and it's a hydrocarbon gas which is given off from the banana skin. I can't remember which one it is now, but that's given off, and as it's given off, that will start the fruit to ripen. So that's the last juice for banana. I just want to very quickly, because we've been talking about aphids, I want to tell you the best way of stopping aphids, and from an organic point of view. And the best way to stop aphids is by using oranges. Now, if you get an orange and you peel an orange, inside the orange you've got like or lemon or limes or whatever, they're all the same. An orange peel, if you peel it off, on the inside you've got like a white sort of furry material, which is protecting the which is protecting the orange. On the outside you've got the orange part, the pith. Now the white part of the orange is very rich in a substance called limonene. Now limonene is another hydrocarbon, which is basically a benzene ring with two groups coming off that, and this is what it looks like. And limonene is a substance which will kill aphids. So if you get an orange peel, and if you cut an orange into sort of 4 and then peel it off, you'll end up with a sort of shape like that. If you turn it inside out and then rub the white part of the orange onto a plant that's got aphids on it, the limonene will come off the orange peel and go onto the plant. Obviously you need to be gentle with it depending on what plant you've got. Now limonene, sorry, step back slightly. Aphids breathe through their bodies. They don't have lungs and a respiratory system like humans do. They have, like many insects, they will breathe through their basically their skin, if you like. They haven't got skin as such, but you know what I mean. So they'll breathe through their body. If limonene gets onto their bodies, so if you wipe it onto the plant and then an aphid goes onto that limonene and gets covered in the limonene, it'll basically suffocate the aphid. So if you rub the limonene onto the plant when the aphids go and walk on that, it'll basically suffocate the aphids and kill them. The other things you can do is you can get an bit of orange, cut a slit into it, and then put that over the plant. If the plant's a bit more delicate, put that over the plant, and then obviously as the aphids walk over the orange, they'll get covered again in the limonene and it'll kill them. So that's a really good use for orange peel. The one thing, additionally to this, the one thing I will say about orange peel is don't put orange peel into your ground or your compost heap. Oranges are useful for to get the limonene from them for the aphids, etc. But orange peels is very highly acidic. There's a lot of citric acid in orange peel, and this is another thing I'm going to come on to, but in a compost heap or in the ground, it's all the same thing really. You've got a lot of microbes, bacteria, etc., which is breaking down all of the good matter that you put into the ground and turn it into a form that the plant can absorb, like we're talking about. So it'll get potassium or potash from the rotting matter, and the enzymes and the bacteria and that which are in the ground will turn that into potassium oxide. Then the plants absorb it. So you need to look at the full sort of cycle, if you like. If you put a lot of acid into the ground, or into your compost heap, etc., the acid has an adverse effect. It will actually kill the bacteria and the enzymes which are in the in the compost. So if there's not the bacteria there, all of the other stuff that you're putting into the compost heap won't break down, and therefore the plants can't absorb it. So your compost is basically useless. So don't put oranges, lemons, limes, anything like that into the compost heap. That is one of very few things you don't use on a compost heap, but they are very useful to get the limonene off, you know, to kill the aphids and that. So this is the first part of Don't Fight with Mother Nature. I hope that's been of some interest. I have gone slightly quick with this one, but I just wanted to explain the kind of background and the things you need to be thinking of. In following episodes, I'll explain it a little bit more slowly than I have today, so it's a little bit more understandable, but that's basically the chemistry of gardening. So, thank you again for watching Jim's Allotment Garden. I hope what we've been talking about today has been of some use to you. I really want to say thank you to everybody again for subscribing. If you've got any comments on any subjects that I've covered, please do put some comments below, and I'll respond to you as soon as I see the comments. I can't promise I'll respond to them the day that you write them, but I'll most certainly keep my eye on them, and I'll respond to all of them at some point. So thank you very much everybody who's subscribed, and I really appreciate your support, and see you next time. Bye bye now.